Have you ever been so terrified that you would rather run barefoot into a frozen wilderness than stay where you were? On a cold February night in 1959, 9 experienced hikers did exactly that. They slashed their own tent open from the inside, abandoned their food, coats, boots, and equipment, and disappeared into the darkness. Outside, the temperature had dropped below minus 30 degrees Celsius. The nearest village was days away. There was no shelter, no rescue, no chance of survival. Yet something inside that tent frightened them more than freezing to death. When rescuers finally found them weeks later, nothing made sense. Some had died from hypothermia. Others had suffered injuries so violent that investigators compared them to the force of a car crash. One woman was missing her tongue. Several bodies showed traces of radiation. Their footprints revealed no sign of panic, and their tent had been cut open from the inside. More than 60 years later, people are still asking the same question. What happened on that mountain? This is the mystery of Dyatlov Pass. The story begins far from mystery, conspiracy, or fear. It begins with 9 young adventurers who simply wanted to conquer one of the Soviet Union's most challenging winter routes. Their leader was 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, an engineering student with an excellent reputation among experienced hikers. Winter expeditions in the Ural Mountains were never easy, but Dyatlov had already completed several difficult journeys and knew how to organize a team. Joining him were fellow students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute. Some studied engineering, others radio technology or construction, but they all shared the same passion for adventure. There was Zina Kolmogorova, known for her cheerful personality and determination. Rustem Slobodin, an athletic engineer who rarely complained. Lyudmila Dubinina, one of the toughest members of the group despite her small frame. Alexander Kolovatov, a quiet physics student. Yuri Doroshenko, remembered for once chasing away a bear during another expedition. Georgy Krivonishenko, an energetic graduate with a great sense of humor. Nikolai Thibault Brignol, whose friends admired both his strength and calm judgment. And Semyon Zolotaryov, the oldest member of the team at 38 years old, a decorated World War II veteran who joined the expedition at the last minute. Originally, there had been a 10th participant, Yuri Yudit, but shortly after the journey began, severe pain in his legs forced him to turn back. Disappointed, he said goodbye to his friends and returned home. At the time, he believed he had simply been unlucky. He would later become the only member of the expedition to survive. On January 23, 1959, the group left the city by train, laughing, singing songs, and taking photographs along the way. The Soviet Union encouraged challenging outdoor expeditions as a test of endurance and skill, and this trip was intended to qualify the hikers for the highest certification available in Soviet mountaineering. Everything about the expedition appeared ordinary. Their journals described beautiful snowy landscapes, friendly jokes, and the everyday frustrations of traveling through deep snow. Photographs recovered later showed smiling faces, homemade skis, campfires, and moments of pure excitement. Nothing hinted at the tragedy waiting ahead. As they pushed deeper into the northern Ural Mountains, civilization slowly disappeared behind them. Villages became distant memories. The forests grew denser. The weather became harsher. Their destination lay beyond a mountain known by the local Mansi people as Kholat Syakhl. It is often translated as Mountain of the Dead. The name sounds almost supernatural today, but historians believe it probably referred to the mountain's poor hunting conditions rather than some ancient curse. Still, after everything that happened, the name would become impossible to forget. On February 1st, worsening weather surrounded the group. Strong winds and blowing snow reduced visibility until the landscape became little more than white sky meeting white ground. Instead of descending into the shelter of nearby trees, Dyatlov made a decision that investigators would debate for decades. The team pitched their tent directly on the exposed mountainside. Some researchers believe they wanted to avoid losing altitude. Others think they simply misjudged the weather. Whatever the reason, it became the last camp they would ever build. The hikers carefully flattened the snow, erected their large canvas tent, and settled in for the evening. Inside, they arranged backpacks along the walls, placed boots neatly near the entrance, and prepared dinner. Their final camera photographs captured ordinary moments: friends smiling, equipment being organized, snow blowing across the mountain. Nothing unusual, nothing frightening, just another night before continuing the journey. Then darkness fell. No one knows exactly what happened next. There were no survivors, no witnesses, only the evidence left behind. Sometime during the night, something caused all 9 hikers to make an extraordinary decision. Instead of opening the entrance normally, someone used a knife to slash through the side of the tent from the inside. One after another, they climbed through the opening. Most left without boots. Several wore only socks. Some had no jackets. Some were barely dressed for the freezing temperatures. Even more strangely, they did not appear to run. When investigators later examined the snow, they discovered lines of footprints leading calmly away from the tent. There were no signs of a struggle, no signs that people had been chased, no signs of chaos. The footprints continued for nearly 1.5 kilometers toward a forest below. Then, they disappeared into the snow, and that was where the real mystery began. The hikers were expected to return by February 12th. When no message arrived, nobody immediately assumed the worst. Winter expeditions often face delays caused by weather, difficult terrain, or unexpected detours. But as the days passed, concern slowly turned into alarm. On February 20th, a rescue team of students and instructors set out to find them. Soon, soldiers, police officers, and aircraft joined the search. What they discovered would become one of the most puzzling crime scenes in modern history. The first clue was the tent. It was still standing, partially buried under snow, exactly where the hikers had pitched it. Inside, everything had been left behind. Backpacks, food, blankets, cameras, diaries, even neatly arranged boots. It looked less like a campsite that had been abandoned, and more like one that had been evacuated in an instant. Then investigators confirmed something even stranger. The large cuts in the canvas had been made from the inside. Whatever had happened that night, the hikers had chosen to escape through the side of their own shelter instead of using the entrance. Following the frozen footprints downhill, the search team reached the edge of a forest. Beneath a massive cedar tree, they found the first 2 bodies, Yuri Doroshenko and Georgy Krivonishenko. Both were barefoot. Both wore only thin clothing despite the deadly cold. The branches above them were broken as high as 5 meters, suggesting that someone had climbed the tree, perhaps searching for the missing tent or looking for danger in the darkness. Nearby lay the remains of a small campfire. It appeared the 2 men had desperately tried to keep warm before finally collapsing from hypothermia. A few hundred meters away, rescuers found 3 more bodies. First came Igor Dyatlov, then Zina Kolmogorova, finally Rustam Slobodin. Each lay closer to the tent than the last. It looked as though they had tried to make their way back. None of them made it. At first, investigators believed the mystery was simply a tragic survival story. 9 hikers, a terrible storm, poor decisions, exposure to extreme cold. But nearly 2 months later, the investigation took another shocking turn. As the snow began to melt, search teams discovered the remaining 4 hikers inside a deep ravine beneath several meters of snow. Their deaths were nothing like the others. Lyudmila Dubinina had suffered multiple broken ribs. Semyon Zolotaryov's chest had been crushed with incredible force. Nikolai Thibault Brignol had a severe skull fracture. Medical examiners noted that the injuries resembled those from a high-speed vehicle collision, yet there were almost no major external wounds. It was as if an enormous pressure had acted on their bodies without leaving the kind of damage normally seen from an attack. Then came the detail that would haunt the world for decades. Lyudmila Dubinina's tongue was missing. Parts of her lips and soft tissue were also gone. Several other bodies were missing their eyes. To many people, It sounded like something from a horror film. But forensic experts later pointed out that bodies exposed for weeks in flowing water, freezing temperatures, and scavenging animals can naturally lose these soft tissues first. It was disturbing, but it was not necessarily evidence of murder. Still, the unanswered questions kept growing. Some clothing tested positive for radioactive contamination, not enough to cause illness, but enough to raise eyebrows during the Cold War. One victim's camera contained photographs from the trip, but nothing revealing the final hours. Their journals ended as though the expedition had simply stopped in the middle of an ordinary adventure. The official Soviet investigation reached a conclusion that satisfied almost no one. The hikers, it declared, had died because of a compelling natural force. No further explanation was given. The case was closed, and that single vague sentence opened the door to decades of speculation. The most widely accepted explanation today is an avalanche. According to this theory, the hikers heard snow shifting above their tent and believed a deadly slide was about to bury them. With only seconds to react, they cut their way out and escaped downhill. Later, when they realized the avalanche had either missed them or stopped, some attempted to return but froze before reaching the tent. In 2021, a new scientific study supported a variation of this idea. Researchers suggested that a delayed slab avalanche, combined with the steep slope, strong winds, and the way the hikers had cut into the snow while pitching their tent, could explain why they fled so suddenly. Computer models showed that under rare conditions, a compact mass of snow might have struck the tent with enough force to cause serious injuries while leaving surprisingly little obvious evidence by the time rescuers arrived. For many experts, this became the strongest explanation yet, but not everyone was convinced. Critics point out that the footprints remained visible for weeks, something many people believe would have been unlikely after a major avalanche. Others argue the slope itself did not appear steep enough for a classic avalanche, and the strange pattern of injuries still raises questions. Over the years, countless alternative theories have appeared. Some believe the hikers accidentally witnessed secret Soviet military testing. Others suggest they encountered experimental weapons or parachute mines, whose powerful shock waves could produce devastating internal injuries. There are theories involving powerful downslope winds that created terrifying low-frequency sounds capable of triggering panic. Some blame rare weather phenomena. Others point to escaped prisoners, spies, or violent encounters that were later covered up. And of course, there are the more sensational ideas: the Yeti, aliens, unknown creatures hiding in the mountains. These theories remain popular in books, documentaries, and on the internet. But despite decades of investigation, none has been supported by convincing physical evidence. Perhaps the most unsettling part of the Dyatlov Pass mystery is not what we know, it's what we don't. There was no final diary entry explaining their fear, no survivor to tell the story, no recording of that final night, only frozen footprints leading away from a tent, and silence. More than 60 years have passed since 9 experienced hikers disappeared into the darkness of the Ural Mountains. Scientists have offered explanations. Investigators have reopened the case. Modern technology has answered some questions that once seemed impossible. Yet the final moments of that winter night remain hidden beneath layers of snow, time, and uncertainty. Perhaps the mystery has already been solved, and the truth is simply less dramatic than the legends. Or perhaps one crucial piece of evidence was lost forever in the storm. Because sometimes, history doesn't leave us with answers, it leaves us with footprints, leading into the darkness.